Imagine this. You're proudly standing at the front door of your home. Maybe you built it. Maybe you saved for years. Maybe you dreamed about it since you were a child. For many of us, owning a home is more than just a milestone. It is where we feel safe and we belong. But what if I asked you to picture something else? One morning, after a night of storms and heavy rain, you wake up, you go downstairs, and you find your basement flooded. The brown, smelly water continues to rise. That is frightening, because the home that meant security all of a sudden feels fragile and threatened. We commit decades of our earnings to paying a mortgage, and we hope our home will gain in value and be a safety net for retirement. But today, climate change is rewriting the rules. It can turn our safest investment into potential risks, because weather patterns we once thought predictable are becoming wild cards. And your beautiful home might someday lose its value, not because of the market, but because of the climate. Now, I can see some of you think, that's never going to happen to me. I'm here to do two things. First, to gently challenge that belief. And second, to offer a new way of thinking, a skill for our time, because we're moving from a world that is predictable to one that is surprising and uncertain. Here's the good news. If we recognize these changes and adapt our thinking, we can make better decisions and become resilient. How much has our world changed from a climate perspective? I have an insurance background, but I don't want to cite statistics. I find images more compelling. Do you remember the images of climate change a couple of years ago? They were always somewhere else. They showed polar bears stuck on shrinking ice, or Pacific Islands in the middle of rising seas. It felt far away, something sad, but not personal. Fast forward to today, and the pictures have changed. Now they're here in Europe. We now see villages in Austria and Slovenia hit by flash floods no one saw coming. In northern Italy, flooding has become a regular event. Spain and Greece keep battling relentless wildfires. And just when you think a summer can't get any hotter, a huge storm with brutal winds will hit. My friend Twyla Moon, who's a climate scientist, calls this global weirding. Because we're not just seeing hotter days. We're having cold spells, too much rain in some places, too little in others. The only thing that's consistent is that our weather's becoming more extreme. Because every degree of warming adds 7% more moisture to the atmosphere. And that extra humidity brings heavier rainfall, stronger storms, and wilder swings between the extremes. So global warming doesn't just make our world hotter, it makes it much more unpredictable. And here's the danger. Our thinking hasn't kept pace with reality. We still see extreme weather as a freak occurrence, something rare, something that happens to other people. But that mindset comes at a cost. Because if we treat disasters as outliers, we never prepare. We just cross our fingers and hope for the best. But as you can imagine, relying on luck is not a strategy. So what can you do? How can you adapt to this new world? Let's say you're buying a home today. Traditionally, you would look for a great location, close to work, good schools, and a nice neighborhood. In a world of increasing extremes, you should ask new questions. Has this area ever flooded? How bad are the storms? What happens in case of a drought? And go beyond the pretty brochures. You can check flood maps online or ask your insurance agent, because their pricing is based on your local risks. That's all excellent homework, but it only tells us one part of the story. It tells us today's risks. Here's the challenge. When we buy a home, we're not just thinking about the next couple of years. We're making a decision that matters for 30, 50, or even 70 years. So the key question is, will this home be safe and hold its value for the next generation? The problem is, right now, there are no risk maps that are public and accessible that show us future risks. So we simply don't know what's coming. But fortunately, there are new tools in the making. Some startups and major companies are starting to use a combination of climate models, satellite data, and AI to project how risks will develop over the coming decades. So some people can see where tomorrow's hazards lie. That's excellent progress. And in my view, access to this information should not be a privilege. I believe it should be public, transparent, and part of how communities plan and protect us all. So I encourage you, talk to your local government so that this data becomes available. Why does it matter? Because it helps us all make smarter, long-term decisions. A climate-resilient future begins when everyone has the full picture of tomorrow's risks. Then municipalities can plan safer neighborhoods. Businesses can locate their factories where they won't be swept away. And anybody buying a home can have confidence that their investment will be safe. That's the new mindset we need. One that treats uncertainty not as an obstacle, but as part of how we make decisions. So, a key skill for all of us will be to think in probabilities, not certainties. Instead of asking what will happen, we should ask what could happen and how likely is it. This is how scientists work and how investors think. So let's stop ignoring uncertainty and start working with it, because then we can develop the readiness that keeps our future safe. In an unpredictable world, this is how we adapt and thrive.